Hey guys, T here. Today we're going to be taking a look at the French Tier 5 cruiser, the La Galissonniere, otherwise known as the Laga. You can see I've been running Rue. I bumped him up to 10. I got Lemon and Rue, and I'm not sold on either of them yet. I got to figure out how the 6 and 7 tier ships play before I commit, but this one is extremely susceptible to being massively damaged if it gets shot. So I figured I would bump up him to level 10. He's much more defensibility. He has the Ingenious perk, which I really like. His version increases turret traverse, but it does give you the warning indicator if you're getting targeted, which will give you time to prepare to evade shots, which is kind of the name of the game with the ship. I've been playing this at pretty much max range, and that's what I would strongly recommend doing it at. Again, the closer you get to anything, the easier it is for the average player to hit you, and the more accurate the guns are in general, the closer you are anyways. So we're just going to start off firing our guns. Now this ship, you're going to be shooting a lot of HE in. The problem with it is the HE penetration is pretty weak, so we'll take a look at how many hits I get at the end of the battle and then compare the actual damage. You can see there I had a broadside Pensacola and took the AP shot. If you have the broadside cruisers, I would switch over to AP. That's going to help you balance out the damage. That's going to be, you're going to have to really work to get your damage throughout the course of a game anyways, but if you can sneak in a nice AP salvo, especially one, if you can land a Citadel or 2 or 3, and sneak those in there, that's going to help your damage count. But kind of the name of the game with this ship is if you can manage to survive and you can manage to harass throughout the entire game, you could potentially get 2-3 times your ship's HP in damage, which is pretty acceptable for this ship in my opinion. So we spawn above C here. Our team is kind of getting overwhelmed down here, but I'm just going to start bombing shots off. We got this New Mexico, and we're just going to utilize the cover, utilize kiting, and utilize the defensive capabilities of this ship and this build to try and stay alive as much as possible. Now Rue does boost HE damage, which helps a little bit with this ship. I think it'd be pretty interesting for like a Makawa or a Yamamoto, running it on like the Mogami, Mayoko, those type of ships. That could really be interesting. This ship is not gonna be landing a lot of HE damage just on its own, just due to the fact that the shells aren't penetrating a lot. But when the shells do land and penetrate, then getting a little bit of a boost is also nice. But Rue, I'm mainly focused on the survivability. I do have Scott as my inspiration, and then I'm planning on putting Makawa. Again, I want to play a long range, at least with this ship, and increasing the ratio between your distance that you're detected at and the distance you can fire at would be quite helpful. Right now, the concealment on the ship is really poor. It's 12.4 surface detectability, which is actually the highest on any of my current builds. Nuremberg's the next at 12.3, but you get down to the Aoba, which I probably wrote down with Makawa in the seat, 10.7, or like an 11 for Pensacola. So quite a bit of a disadvantage in terms of surface detectability. Here, this New Mexico is kind of over here, isolated. I'm doing what I can to support him. I'm trying to get this Gaidi killed if possible. Looks like he did an excellent job of evading all, if not, or most, if not all, of the torps, I meant to say. But he's just getting rushed by a lot of people. Again, I cannot, as a cruiser, I shouldn't be rushing in there anyways, but as a Laga, glass cannon type cruiser, or maybe not even a glass cannon, a glass pea shooter, you can't be, I can't be rushing in there, so I'm trying to encourage him to turn around. I understand that he really can't do much in terms of that, but, I'm just putting the idea out there, just a helpful suggestion. He is able to eliminate the Gaide, which was nice. Now this Königsberg is kind of angled in here, And I'm just going to continue to shoot HE. Now you're going to really have to be good at leading your shots and, you know, against targets that are angled at all angles and stuff like that. I mean, this is the French line so far up through Tier 5, and I suspect probably the entire line, really requires a pretty good aim in terms of leading shots and measuring distance and stuff like that. So again, I'm not recommending this line for like the first cruiser line that anyone plays. I think it's a little bit harder due to the fact that you can't really take any damage, and you got to be aiming really long. There seems to be a little bit of drag on these shells too. I find them that I have to aim, you know, a couple notches forward on my aiming system than I normally would. Like the core bay, it's possible all the French shells have drag. I don't know. I've only gone through Tier 5 on this. I've only played one battleship, but I'm noticing that I've been having to aim forward a little bit. So we're able to get that ship out of the way here now. This New Mexico closing in. You can, I mean, keep an eye on the map here throughout these engagements. I'm trying to keep them basically at pretty much max distance. Now I'm not closing in on him. You know, what I was doing there was trying to wait for him to fire a shot while I was still relatively angled. It's a lot easier for me to dodge pointing at him or pointing away. I started to get impatient. I turned, but luckily we were able to dodge that shot. You're going to be wanting to be fiddling with your speed, wiggling your rear, you know, all sorts of stuff. I mean, you got to be throwing off people's aims because, again, you can get easily, you know, gone in this thing very quickly. So that's kind of the name of the game, you know, just flip back and forth, make it as hard as you can for the opponents, and as frustrating. You know, a lot of times if people take 4, 5, 6 salvos at you and they're not really landing much, if anything, you know, sometimes they'll just get frustrated and start sailing off trying to find someone else who's a little less uncooperative for what they're trying to do. But you can see we're already up to 63k, which isn't a bad score for the ship. And notice the amount of shells landed. I mean, if this was a lot of different cruisers and we're shooting these HE shells, I think you'd have a bit more damage just from the HE damage itself. But I mean, the HE damage on this thing on my build is 2255. You can compare that to, you know, like an Aoba's 3300, 2800 on the Pensacola. Now, those are heavy cruisers. The Nuremberg 1700, which is the other light cruiser, really lightly armored. Similar ship, but it fires a lot quicker. That reload is 5.8 on my build on that one. This one's 9 seconds on this. So it's kind of a drawback. I mean, it's weird about this ship in particular. I mean, the de Grasse on my build on that one's 7.9. The de Grasse, frankly, is just superior to the ship in every way. That ship is extremely powerful. This one, I wouldn't call it powerful. You know, if you can't stay alive for the entire match, you're really going to have a hard time getting high scores. You do have torps on this thing. You have 2 torp launchers that shoot 2 torps out of each of them. When they're upgraded, you have 9-kilometer range, 60 knots in the water, 14.8, 3.3 damage. Not great torps, you know, but when you have the opportunity to get them in there, they're just kind of a distraction factor. So when possible, you can use them. But again, I'm recommending playing this at really long range, so a lot of times the torps aren't going to be coming into play. But something to keep in the back of your mind. But what I have with my build, 5.4 on the rudder, and I think de Grasse, when I wrote down the stats, I probably had lemon in the seat. I had 7 on that rudder shift, so if you can set this ship up to be a little more wiggly. Now the de Grasse is not meant to be taking shots either, but it pumps out a lot more damage for whatever reason, so, you know, it's just, you don't necessarily have to survive the entire match to have really good games in that ship, but this one, it's just kind of a game of attrition. We're going to try and wear these ships down. Now we're up to just shy of 80k, you know. HE chance takes a bit of a hit on Rue. That's the one downside between Lemon. I think it's 14 with Lemon, at least on my builds. 12% with Rue, so decent, but not great. You know, the Aoba, for reference, 17% chance, 16.5 on the Pensacola. So you know, there's the gun characteristics on the ship are not overwhelming, and really there's I can't really think of anything that's great about this ship. I mean, if you fire up the speed boost, I guess it goes fast, but regular speed is 32, Aoba 36, Pensacola 32.5, Nuremberg 32.7. So really it's the slowest cruiser out of the tech tree, minus the boost, and I don't know off the top of my head what you hit with the boost, but you know, it's not extraordinarily fast by any means. So you do need to keep that in mind. I think especially coming off of the Emily, which is I think the fastest cruiser in the game. This one is quite slow by comparison. So anyway, that's my look at the Laga for you. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope it helped you play the ship. Again, it's something you're going to have to be very careful playing. But if you did enjoy the video, please hit the thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, you should consider subscribing. There's a lot of World of Warships coming all the time. Questions for me, comments, leave them below. Love to hear from you guys. And we'll see you guys all later. Alright, peace.